Welcome back for another video. Gameweek 3's just finished, so let's recap some things we've learned this week to take into Gameweek 4, after the international break of course, and I'll discuss my transfer plans at the end as well. I've got 2 free transfers now and some big decisions to make in terms of how to spend them. So Arsenal drew 1-1 with Brighton to kick the Gameweek off. Somewhat of an upset, with Arsenal heavy favourites to win this one, and a controversial red card. If you saw the clip of what happened, was it a second yellow or not? Rice poked the ball away as Veltman was getting ready to take the free kick, which resulted in a second yellow. His first red card of his career, and as a result he's going to miss the North London derby in Gameweek 4. Havertz got Arsenal's goal, which was a Saka assist, and they both got some bonus between them. So that's 11 goals and 9 assists in Havertz's last 17 games for Arsenal, so 1.17 returns per game over that run. The red card not great though. Rice is going to be a huge miss next match. I do wonder if Arteta might use Havertz in midfield for one game, with Trossard possibly playing up top, or we could see Jorginho come straight in for Rice. Marino's still out injured for a while. João Pedro got Brighton's goal, that's 2 goals in his last 2 now. The budget forwards like Welbeck, Wood, João Pedro, Duran, Calvert-Lewin etc. they've all been putting Isak and Watkins to shame so far, Haaland not so much. João Pedro is someone I'm almost certainly going to buy for Gameweek 4, given that they face Ipswich home and then Forest home as the next 2. Verbruggen returned from injury and he was straight back in between the sticks, and he's an option as well if you need a keeper, as is Dunk if you need a defender. Dunk was actually at fault for the goal as Saka leapt for an aerial duel and he caught him by surprise, but nonetheless he will be nailed. Mitoma and Minte were menacing as well, and both solid transfers to Gameweek 4. Aston Villa beat Leicester 2-1 thanks to goals from Onana and Duran. Watkins got an assist, nothing to Rodgers. So that's 61, 64 and 60 minutes for Watkins in the opening 3, which is concerning. And further to that, Duran's form, plus the Champions League kicking off soon. Emery had remarked on a minor Watkins injury, so that could be partly why, but also Duran's form. Now Bailey went off injured after 50 minutes, so that's really unlucky if he went for him. Onana also got a minor injury and he came off for Barkley second half. Despite the 2 goals in 3, it's not sustainable for Onana, and I personally don't see him as a viable asset long term. 5 mil Buonanotte got Leicester's goal, which puts him on 1 goal 1 assist in his last 2. Though he didn't start, he came off the bench and then got his goal. Not a single clean sheet across all 7 games on Saturday, so don't feel hard done by if you didn't keep one, no one did. Brentford beat Southampton 3-1, almost a clean sheet if not for a 95th minute consolation goal. Armstrong only played 45 minutes for the Saints, and Bumo lived up to the promise. He got a brace, and he was someone that we did talk about in the players to buy video. That's now 25 returns in 26 games when playing without Tony, who of course has left Brentford now. Really, Gameweek 3 was the time to buy him, and then it's probably Gameweek 5 or 6, since they do have Man City away next. Well played if you did go for him though. Outside of his brace, he also created 2 big chances. I'm expecting him to be hugely popular in a few weeks' time. Visser for 1 mil cheaper, also a very solid option. He's got 2 goals and an assist from the opening 3 game weeks. 1.34 expected goal involvement against Southampton, which only Haaland could beat this week, and no one took more than Visser's 6 shots. Southampton conceded 2.78 expected goals, and only West Ham fared worst against Man City. So as we suspected, Southampton could be a team to target, and they're up against Man United next after the break. All the data mentioned here is from my scout tables, link below to become a member, and take advantage of all the premium FPL tools available there. Everton looked on track for their first points of the season. They were 2-0 up in the 87th minute against Bournemouth, which is the latest the team's ever been 2-0 up in Premier League history to go on to lose. Total collapse. Calvert-Lewin got a goal and an assist. Sinisterra had a massive impact, a goal and assist himself off the bench. The one Bournemouth player who's leaping out for me is Semenyo. He's got returns in all 3 games so far. He's an absolute menace. He's passing the eye test, and he's heavily involved in their attack. And obviously, following the departure of Solanke, he's bound to be more involved, especially while Evan Nielsen settles in. Only 5.5 mil. They do have a mixed bag of fixtures though. They've got Chelsea and then Liverpool before facing Southampton and Leicester. And then it's 3 tougher games against Arsenal, Villa and Man City, and then a great run of fixtures again. It looks a great pickup nonetheless though. He's a cheap punt. Gameweek 6 might be the time to buy him. Well, obviously, if you're on a wild card or if you're able to rotate him off your bench with others in your team, then that works as well. So let's talk about Haaland then. 3-1 win, back-to-back hat-tricks. That makes him the first player to score a hat-trick in 2 of the first 3 games since the 1994-95 season 20 years ago. 7 goals in 3 is just absurd now, and he's lived up to the 15 mil price tag early on. A painful one if you didn't have him, but obviously Salah did well as well. FPL is a very unforgiving game and it can have huge swings at times. Gameweek 1, Salah owners won. Gameweek 2, Haaland owners won. Gameweek 3, it was even. They both got 17 points. Obviously, if you had both, then you're laughing at this point. The big question for a lot of teams is it worth taking Salah out for him? And then even more difficult sell is it worth making those 2 moves for a -4 hit? Liverpool's next 3 are Forest home, Bournemouth home and then Wolves away. Man City's fixtures are Brentford home, Arsenal home, Newcastle away. So there's no denying Liverpool win in terms of fixtures. So I do think that they will score very similarly the next 3, and if you are fed up with not owning the most owned player in the game in such insane form, then just do it. But it is easier to make the case for Saka to fund Haaland if you can afford it. Something like Saka to Mitoma and Isak to Haaland, for example. One thing's for certain, Haaland's not going to continue with his current output. He'd be on for an 80-goal season otherwise, so it's just not going to happen. A perfectly sound way to play FPL is just to cover all those highly owned assets like Haaland and Palmer, so basically to minimise your exposure to rank swings. I've seen plenty of wildcard teams this week without Haaland, so those that are free to pick whoever they want still aren't necessarily going for him, with a view to buying Haaland Gameweek 7 instead. One other thing to note aside from Haaland is Vardy's not been playing the advanced positions of last season. Lewis has been the more advanced one. 18 touches in the box for Lewis this season, 7 for Vardiol. An assist from Lewis as well, and he got a bonus point for one of Haaland's 3 goals. I'll be doing a wildcard video this week coming, so make sure you subscribe to see the team. Chelsea drew 1-0 with Crystal Palace from a Jackson goal, and Eze scoring Palace's. Patience rewarded for those that kept hold of Eze despite the price drop. It was a recurring theme on last week's video that the likes of Eze and Isak need a bit more patience, and it did deliver. It was a lovely curled shot from outside the box for Eze, Doucouré assist. Palmer assisted Jackson's goal, and despite a yellow card for booting the ball away, still got 2 bonus points. Eze got all 3 for a 10-pointer. That's 45 returns in 50 games for Palmer now. Newcastle beat Spurs 2-1. Van de Ven missed out on this one. Postecoglou said he was close in training this week, but he's not quite 100% fit. Isak finally coming good as we said. He got a goal squared by Murphy for a tap-in, and he also hit the bar early in the game. Porro had an assist for a Romero goal ruled slightly offside. He actually took 6 shots, which was more than anyone that game. Outrageous positioning at times from Porro. He joins the front line in attack, and he's going to come up with a few double-digit hauls this season, no doubt. Clean sheets were basically a myth this game week. The only team that actually managed to keep one was Liverpool, ending the game with a 3-0 dominant win over Man United. Huge relief for Salah captainers, who got a goal and 2 assists, meaning he actually finished on the same score as Haaland, both getting 17 points. Diaz scored a brace as well. Liverpool looks so good at the moment. That's 3 wins on the bounce, and they're still yet to concede even. Including his time at Feyenoord, Slot is still yet to lose a game this calendar year. 127 points in Salah's 14 appearances against Man United over his career. He always shows up against them. Trent came off early again for Bradley, locking in his clean sheet. No returns for Jota this week. So let's finish up with my team and transfer plans. For Gameweek 4 it's Henderson, Trent, Concert Dunk, Rogers, Saka, Eze, Smith Rowe, Fernandes, Isak and Haaland. Team looks in good shape this week. Got 2 free transfers as well, 1.5 mil on the bank. And there's 2 options I'm considering. Option 1 is to use that 1.5 mil to move Cannon to João Pedro, which does improve my depth, and I'd have to bench Smith Rowe against West Ham Gameweek 4. I like this option because it only requires 1 move, and it might allow me to save the wildcard, because in Gameweek 6 I want to bring in a couple of Arsenal players, and maybe in Mbumo as well. However, that of course means I have to go no Salah, who's home to Forest and then home to Bournemouth, and then they've got Wolves and Palace away. So the other option I'm considering is Isak to João Pedro and Bruno to Salah. Now this gets me 3 premiums which I really like, but it's not without trade-offs. First of all, I'd be selling Bruno before Southampton. Despite how disappointing he's been, it's a great fixture. I'd also be using 2 free transfers here, and it's probably a transfer I'd have to make in the middle of the international break rather than after it, because I've currently got 0.2 mil wiggle room at the moment, but João Pedro looks like he's rising tonight, and Isak could fall despite his goal. So I'm not sure if it's a risk I really want to take on, because I'd have to make those 2 moves during the week. And if someone I own gets injured, for example, then I'd have to play Porro against Arsenal, or wildcard even. There is the option to wait and still buy Salah, but it would mean losing Saka. I fancy Saka to do well against Spurs, so I don't really want to get rid of him, and that leaves me with no Arsenal players as well. And as I say, I want to have 3 in Gameweek 6 ideally, so it's difficult to get back to 3 players by selling now. I'd probably have to sell Salah to get Saka back in, as I'm definitely not selling Haaland to fund it. So as it stands, I'm currently leaning towards Cannon to João Pedro and take 2 free transfers into Gameweek 5. Let us know in the comments how you got on this week and what your plans are for Gameweek 4. Thanks very much for watching as always. See you soon for the next one.